Welcome to Beyond the Build, where we discuss policies, leadership, and economic growth shaping our communities. I'm Kelvin Enfinger, your host, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Congressman Jimmy Patronis. Congressman Patronis represents Florida's 1st Congressional District in Northwest Florida and previously served as Florida's Chief Financial Officer before being elected to Congress in 2025. Throughout his career, he's been heavily involved in issues impacting business, infrastructure, workforce development, and economic growth across the Panhandle and the state of Florida. Today, we're going to talk about the future of Northwest Florida, workforce shortages, infrastructure investment, permitting reform, skilled trades, economic development, and what Congress can do to better support the men and women that are building America every day. Congressman Patronis, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Kelvin, thanks for having me. Yeah, you got a great voice for radio.
I appreciate it. It's one of the few talents I have. I know we're on a time limit today, but this is a construction podcast. So if we run over schedule, I'm going to call it a government delay and just ask for more time, if that's okay. That's the only joke I got. So I'll keep bad jokes to a minimal, and we'll get right into topics. So let's talk about the transition from Florida CFO into Congress, and what has that been like for you?
So, one, thanks for having me. It's been a pretty cool transition. Look, I think the biggest motivator that got me excited about the transition was working with the Trump administration. And look, there are those out there. They have Trump derangement syndrome. And the one thing I could say is those folks that truly don't understand how hard he works. And I've always been a problem solver. I like fixing problems. But more important, I like preventing problems. So with this administration, when you call them, they get on it. They fix problems. They help our constituents, whether it be VA, whether it be Army Corps of Engineers, whether it be transportation issues, military issues. I've been blown away by how responsive they've been. And that's what inspired me to want to make the transition. Because again, I think Washington has a lot of dysfunction, but you got to have folks that are there that are willing to hustle to try to lessen the dysfunction. It's going to be hard to get rid of it. And to me, it's just the rule of numbers. I don't care what your business is, what you do for a living. You're going to have that 10% of the group. There are a bunch of knuckleheads that are just difficult to work with, and the same thing goes in Washington. There's just a lot more in that 10%.
So I'm curious to know, because politics is a relationship game, and you served in the Florida House, you served in the Public Service Commission, you served as Florida CFO, now in Congress. When it comes to building relationships, what has it been like trying to build those relationships in Congress?
Yeah, so that's been the cool part that I did not anticipate. So if you're a member of Congress from Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, or Indiana, you have been vacationing in Northwest Florida for the last 50, 60 years. So there's all these members. When they were kids, they vacationed in Northwest Florida, and they still do as adults. They're just like me and you. They've got families. They enjoy downtime. They enjoy vacations, and they like going to the closest beaches they've got access to. So there's all these members that have instant friendships that have developed simply because they know my backyard. So that's been fun. And look, I was in the restaurant business for 30 years. It's all about taking care of the customer. So I've got a kind of a want to get to repeat customer environment mentality when I do business. So I'm engaging these guys whenever they need something. When they come down to vacation, I help facilitate their needs, make them reservations, get them whoever they want is without the fishing captain, go and make those recommendations to them. And then you've got all these members of Congress that trained here. They've got this chapter of their life where they trained either flying or diving or you name it right here in Northwest Florida. Their kids were born here. So there's these friends that are real easy to make because they're never going to forget Northwest Florida because a chapter of their family's development and service of their country happened here. So the friend making's been pretty cool, and there's a lot of good folks because they have a fondness for this part of the country. It's made the navigating of Congress a heck of a lot easier because they want to help because we've created some friendships.
Well, whether you live here or you vacation here, it's certainly an easy place to fall in love with.
Yeah.
We have the uniqueness of being able to leverage that even when it comes to business attraction for Northwest Florida, and we've seen that. So let's kind of get into that a little bit as we think about the growth in Northwest Florida, and we think about the construction, we think about the infrastructure needs. We just seen the Warrior Road Act for Highway 98 that's just recently been announced to assist with Herbert Field. What are some of the other biggest infrastructure needs that you're hearing about or even working on in Northwest Florida right now?
No, you just got to get people to and from work and home in the best way you can. And my attitude has always been is that the citizens of Northwest Florida and the citizens of the state of Florida, for that matter, spend their money better than Washington, D.C. does. So you're not going to see me advocate for dollars or projects that are going to go to these one-off issues that may be outside of what the scope of the federal government is. And where we can help increase the quality of life, where we can make sure those tax dollars are used efficiently, that's what we're going to target on. Those are the bills that I'm filing. Those are the appropriations I'm advocating for. I hate wasting money. And so I just know how hard people work in putting food on the table for their family. And when they send dollars to the federal government, I just don't want to see it wasted. So again, this is my kind of my litmus test. I get a lot of people that come and request. And so I'll give you an example. People will come and they'll want support for their industry, their company. And usually my first comment back to them is, hey, do you have a presence where you're creating jobs in Northwest Florida? If they don't, then, I don't throw them out the door. I said, okay, well, tell me how, if we invest together, you're going to make a difference in Northwest Florida, increasing the quality of life, increasing economic development, bringing prosperity. And really, if they're not interested in that scope of work, there's really probably not a lot that I feel like I need to try to obligate to do for them.
I certainly just want to say thank you for the Warrior Road Act. Highway 98 has been a pain point for the military and access to the military base. Long time needed. So thank you for that. I've seen that the U.S. Department of Transportation allocated $489 million for the Port Infrastructure Development Program. Should we anticipate in the industry to continue to see programs like that, maybe for transportation, aviation, utility, infrastructure improvements in our communities? Under this administration, do you think we'll continue to see those type of initiatives?
I think you will see it still continue. So let me kind of give you a snapshot. There's inherently, whether you're in the state legislature or in Congress, these members like giving good news. That's just how they're wired. Sometimes giving good news means you're spending money in a way that's going to help their quality of life. So there's about 70 members of Congress that aren't seeking re-election for one reason or another this year. And so a lot of these guys, they want to go out on a high note. So there's going to be probably better collaboration between both sides of the aisle from those folks trying to get something across the finish line because they feel like they've got a willing partner in the White House. As we've got a majority in both chambers, we may not always get exactly across the finish line what we want to get across the finish line, but it's better where you have everybody at least of the same party affiliation to try to accomplish some work. So I think you'll see probably a pretty good year. Surface authorization is a big deal. I sit on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. The Surface Authorization Act is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be authorizing work on surface areas. That means roads and bridges. So we're, again, working on trying to ensure resources that are transportation related go and fund common sense projects.
Well, one thing I want to ask you, because we're seeing challenges in this industry and across the board, and you guys are seeing it in Washington when it comes to public projects and things that you're trying to get done, especially back home in your districts. We're all being affected by inflation, whether we're in construction or it's just affecting our day-to-day lives and our households. What are you seeing right now that's coming out of Congress that is potentially going to keep projects moving forward? Because obviously the last thing we want as an industry to see any projects get delayed, stalled, or canceled. And certainly as a congressman, the last thing you want to see is something get stalled in your district.
So what we try to at least do is create some predictability in the permitting process. We've got a whole new set of leadership over the Army Corps of Engineers. There is an interest to be more engaging and try to be able to get the Corps to be focused on what their true mission is. There's those out there that are so upset with the Corps that they are convinced that their sole purpose in life is to not issue permits. So, we work them, but I get very spun up when we have excessive delays that lead to excessive soft costs, and soft costs I mean, legal expenses, engineering expenses, surveying expenses, because of somebody is nickel and diming or challenging a development. Look, sometimes a development could be something like, over in Century, a sewer treatment plant. These are things that are trying to be established in order to help the quality of life or the quality of the environment. But you still get these knuckleheads out there that it's their sole purpose is to see zero growth, zero development. And, that's not the world we live in. Just because you have your home doesn't mean somebody else doesn't want to live the American dream in Florida. So, I just, I get frustrated when we have incompetence in government, and, you got to work it, because there is a true mentality and culture that exists in Washington, and to a degree it lives in Tallahassee, that their attitude is, I was here before Donald Trump and I'm going to be here after Donald Trump. And they will simply wait out and be able to continue to be this frustration that stymies growth, that stymies economic prosperity.
I appreciate your comments about, change and changing the communities. I can be sympathetic, and I can understand the people that maybe are a little bit scared of change, because a lot of people are. It's just different from what they've seen growing up. But the level of NIMBYism in Northwest Florida, because of the growth, has really gotten out of hand in some ways. And you have people that are just really standing in the way of better communities. And that's what we're all after, right? We all want just a better community, a better way of life. We want better services. And so it's frustrating when you see people in your own community that's standing in the way of that type of progress.
Well, let me tell you, to me, home ownership is the single greatest force for good. When somebody owns a home, they become an investor in that community. They care about, well, where's my house at? Well, then where's my schools that my kids are going to go to? And they start caring about the quality of those schools. They start getting things called tax bills, and they look at them and they get concerned about, where are my taxes being spent, as they see these dollars going to the local governments. They do other things, like they show up for work. They start to beautify this investment that they're making. So, when you don't have affordability when it comes to home ownership, that's a setback for us. And so this is why I was so obsessed when I was in Tallahassee on getting the insurance situation fixed. Right now, insurance rates all over the state are going down. And I'm going to tell you, and your listeners, if you have not taken the time to pick up the phone and call your insurance agent, or even call maybe a different agent, because different agents can sell different products, and let them shop your rates, I guarantee you there's savings to be found. My insurance since 2022 has gone down over 50%. But you know what? I aggressively shop it every single year.
That's a good point. So across the board, whether you're in commercial construction like us, and what ABC members stand for, if you're on the other side of it with residential construction and the home builders, we're all struggling in the same sense for workforce, right?
Yeah.
And so we appreciate the growth. We need the growth. We want to see our communities continue to grow. We want to see new people come in, and we're trying to do our part. As you probably, know or remember from your time in the Florida House, ABC is the largest provider of private apprenticeship programs in the state of Florida. We're doing our part, but the truth is, across the country, we need 360,000 construction workers right now. That could climb by over 100 more thousand by next year. So we're looking for those opportunities. There needs to be a renaissance of young men and women getting back into the construction industry, looking at skilled trades. So in your words, I just want you to tell these listeners, why should young adults refocus on skilled trades?
Sure. Well, my first degree was culinary arts degree, and working at Captain Harrison's restaurant, cooking in the restaurant. There is a satisfaction you get by creating something with your hands that you're never going to see taking a test and hopefully getting an A. When you get that gratification, you've done something yourself. That's a different type of confidence builder. And I mean, I'll look at myself. I started off working in the kitchen. I started off with a career technical education degree. Once I realized I could do more, because I knew I had the ability to do more, but it was only because I had tasted some success doing things with my hands, is what gave me the opportunity, or the passion, or just the confidence to want to go to do things like public service. And so, there's such a gratifying opportunity when you do something yourself. And just kind of a little bit of a caveat. I still feel, I was talking to a buddy on the phone today. There was such just a dark chapter with COVID. I feel like we lost so much of the appetite for workforce in COVID. Unfortunately, it's a slow process. I feel like we are digging our way out of it. But I just look at the number of businesses that, burnt through reserves during COVID and said, you know what, I'm going to close up shop and just take care of myself and my wife because I'm going to go ahead and retire. Businesses went out. I still feel like we're under the stress of availability and supply chains and labor because of COVID. I just feel like every single day that we reinforce those opportunities, especially the type of dollars that come out of the construction industry, we can turn the page, get out of this dark chapter we were in. But people don't realize it. Construction is the single largest generator of revenues for the state of Florida. And you think about it, whenever you build a house, all the sales tax that goes into the shingles and the bricks and the paint, and then all those people working on the job site, they're going to get a paycheck from that contractor, that sub. And what are they going to do with it? They're going to go buy groceries. They're going to buy clothes. They're going to pay their bills. And all those businesses they did exchange with are paying sales tax to the state. There's few industries that do that, like the construction industry. And the end result is you're creating stability in your community. I don't think we give enough credit to the value of the economy of the state of Florida and how grateful we should be that people want to live in this state and the contractors want to facilitate that dream.
I appreciate you saying that. It is very important. It's a $1 trillion industry in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I think, too often people will look down upon the industry or forget how important it is. There's the saying that it all starts with construction. So everything we have, whether it's our house or it's the business we work in, or it's the grocery store that we shop in, or the products that we even have that are manufactured in a facility that were constructed by a contractor. So it's one of those jobs that will always be necessary. It will always be there. And the men and women of the construction industry are some of the greatest people that you'll ever meet across the U.S.
Yeah.
And I've had an opportunity to meet so many of them, and they're, a lot of them are blue collar, and they're just hardworking men and women who just absolutely love what they do and creating a product and a service for their community.
That's
I know
right.
that you're serving on the House Committee for Small Business with Chair Roger Williams. What do you see happen in that committee?
So what we see, at least through small business, but what I've seen most recently, I've only been on the job about a year, but you see Kelly Loeffler, who is the administrator of the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and trying to get rid of all of the just bad policies that got reinforced during the Biden administration that were sending dollars intended for creating small businesses into silos that really have very little output of solutions for helping the economy grow. So here she's a businesswoman. She's been a great partner for us. Her testimony, her vision, just kind of making the SBA more responsive to help people live the American dream. There's hard to force a solution to kind of create a greater labor environment out thin air. But what we're trying to do is get out of the way when it comes to somebody wanting to start a business, and where we can help facilitate them with a low interest loan and a solution that helps them grow a business. I mean, small business creates more jobs in this country, small businesses, more jobs in this country than any other entity. It's not, it's not the manufacturers, it's the small businesses.
So I know you talk to a lot of small business owners in Northwest Florida. What are some of the biggest concerns that you're hearing from small business owners right now?
Yeah, everybody's struggling with labor. It really is. And we're a seasonal market. And part of the challenge we've got here in Florida, we're a popular place. I haven't seen the numbers from what 2025 generated, but in 2024, we had over 400,000 new net Floridians. And look, a lot of those folks came down here and they brought their wealth, their investments, their know-how to move to the state of Florida. Some of them are looking for jobs, some of them weren't. But mince no words, 400,000 people need services. And to do those services, that type of a spike it means you need more folks in the labor force. You're seeing a very competitive workplace right now where folks wanted in the construction business, the service industry where we live now is about to spike into the summer season. They're going to be fighting for labor, but that's probably the most common reoccurring theme as businesses sometimes get stretched thin. Heck, the other night talking to my brother at the restaurant, several members of my families are all washing dishes because the dishwashers hadn't showed up yet. Well, you know what you got to do? You wash the dishes because the customers want clean plates. So I mean, it is what it is. That's why I reflected a little bit on COVID because it seems like we've had challenges ever since 2020. And I just really want that part of history just to go away.
Well, as a small business owner, sometimes you just got to you got to pick up and do what you got to do to make it happen. And if it's, as you said, washing the dishes, that's what you got to do to keep moving forward. And that's the resilience of a lot of small business owners in America.
Yeah,
especially in the state of Florida. One of the beautiful things about the state of Florida is how we believe in just fair and open competition. And less government is exactly what small business owners need. And so I hope that, under this administration and leadership like yours in Washington, that we'll continue to see the reduction of federal regulations that hurt small businesses. One thing I would mention to you, and this is something I know you've heard from the folks at ABC about, but we've seen the upholding of like project labor agreements. We've seen the most recent things regarding faster labor contracts act. ABC and individuals like ourselves are not anti-union. We just believe in the merit shop philosophy of just fair and open competition. Right. Do you think that we are going to continue to see initiatives of things like project labor agreements or faster labor contract acts continue to be pushed out of Washington, or do you think that we're going to hit a threshold to where maybe we can get a handle on that? Because ultimately it's going to affect projects, especially federally funded projects in the state of Florida. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to stall work on military installations, right? So
sure.
Where do you think that's headed, and how do you think we can get a handle on it?
So I really don't think you'll probably see a lot of significant change. And here's why. I feel like under the Biden administration, there was a very strong push to increase union-based policies that were union-friendly under the Biden administration. One of the challenges we've got now, there is an appetite to try to supercharge the United States economy. And some of that means, you can allow more of a free market approach where you're having some work done in a competitive manner and you're not forcing a union shop to be part of that contractor to do it. When you come and you examine Florida, Florida's a right to work state. So there's not a lot of union-based contractors that exist in the Florida market or in the Southeast for that matter. So we've got a slim margin in both chambers of what the House and the Senate have. So to try to make any type of changes along those lines, if it requires a law change, it's difficult. So this is why you've seen so much out of the president directly with his executive orders. And look, the president sits down and he talks to the Speaker of the House and he talks to the Majority Leader in the Senate and says, look, these are some of the things I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and do it via an executive order. Is that something that y'all can be supportive with? He doesn't try to go do an executive order, but some things we just got to make happen now. And we can't wait until Congress decides to come together and be united. And it's a very difficult process because when you think about I'm passing a law in Washington, D.C., it's going to affect 50 states in this country. And sometimes getting all 50 states on the same page is difficult because I'm going to tell you, the state of Illinois is nothing like the state of Florida. The state of South Dakota is nothing like the state of Florida. So we may have some common with our values in some degree, but other than that, we are vastly different states apart. And this is why, I tell people all the time, you got to hold your electeds accountable. Otherwise, you get the government you deserve. And that goes for state government, local government, and your federal guys, me included.
Florida is a very unique place. And one thing that really makes us unique right now is the amount of economic growth that we're experiencing. And we're seeing a strong economy. We're seeing job creation. I want to talk about that for a few minutes because we've hit on a lot of topics, but I just kind of want to bring it back home into your district. A lot of things are happening in your district. We've seen, port expansion. We've seen new projects happening across aviation sectors, and just strong continued growth. That's a lot accredited to Triumph Gulf Coast funds that has helped bring some of those projects into the community, and some strong local economic development alliances. But particularly, what do you see right now for Northwest Florida when it pertains to industries that are just driving growth in the Panhandle? What are you seeing from your perspective?
We've got great leadership in the state legislature right now. So, we're going to have some new faces come in Northwest Florida. Alex Andrade is termed out. Michelle Salzman will still be there. You'll have Jay Trumbull. You'll have Nathan Boyles. You'll have, and Jay will be the upcoming Senate president in a couple years now. You got Pat Maney, all these guys that really, I think, do work well together. And then you look at, Don Gates is kind of the silent leader of the group because he's been there, done that, and it's great to have him back in the process. But there mince no words. That group has got to work together because we literally have 7 votes in Northwest Florida. You got in Miami-Dade County, hell, they got 25 votes in one county. So I mean, for us to be able to be effective, to be able to kind of do things right by the folks we have elected, especially for job creation or economic opportunities, or to try to bring any type of manufacturing, one, we've got to leverage what makes sense for us logistically. So, I mean, I tell you, I think a great secret is what's going on over in Santa Rosa County. I think Shannon's done a great job with the industrial park over there. When we've got these little hidden gems across the Panhandle where we're seeing investments take place that are creating stability in the workforce and are going to create a more competitive work environment, which is going to help people with their wages. And again, it also brings people to our market. If you got good quality schools because you've had good quality investments. The last thing I'll leave with you, and I'm kind of a little bit all over the map on that. I want to close this. This is, law enforcement week, and I can't tell you, you don't have good quality jobs, good communities, nice places to take your family to enjoy an evening out if it's not safe. And I'll tell you, I will put our safety and security and peace of mind in Northwest Florida up against anybody in the nation. And I think that is a little bit of the secret to our success, even though we probably don't tell them thank you enough.
I agree wholeheartedly with you. Our communities are unique, they're beautiful, and they're safe. And we've had strong leadership in Florida that has supported that. We have strong leadership locally that supports that as well. Congressman, you've got an election coming up. What do you want to leave us with? Last statement for the listeners.
Sure. So we've been doing some outreach. Look, this is my first year in Congress. It's been an honor to represent y'all in D.C. If you hadn't made a trip to D.C., I hope you will reach out to our office and let us show you how special this place is. President Trump has taken and made D.C. safe again. Last night, I was out with a couple other members. We had a reception to go to after we completed our votes for the day. And there was probably about 12 National Guardsmen from the state of Georgia. And I went and introduced myself to all of them. They all vacationed. They all knew where Northwest Florida is. They all come spend their time down. But this is what this president is trying to do, not just in Washington, D.C., but all over the country. Make it a safe place again. So again, please reach out to me if you're on social media, Facebook, X. If you go to X, my DMs are open, and that's probably the easiest way just to reach out to me directly. But we've got an office in Pensacola. We've got an office in Crestview. And if you go to the website, patronis.house.gov, you can reach out to us 24/7, 365. Our team is used to working on the weekends.
Congressman, thank you for your time, the support that you give to Congressional District 1, for your support to small business and to the construction industry. We appreciate you. And again, I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.